Thank you so much. Can we give Melissa another round of applause for sharing her experiences? I think she has a really good perspective on things as far as a healthcare provider. And she did mention something that I'm going to reiterate about sharing your story. Everybody's got some sort of story revolving around these topics, around women's issues, and for whatever reason it's taboo to share. So know that you're not alone. We are going to have a little bit of time later where if you want to share a brief story or a brief testimony, we're going to encourage you to come up and talk for a little bit. So I think it's important because we're all here together. We're all here for the same reasons. So next, we have Deb Kennedy. She is a member of AAUW of Big Rapids, and the AAUW is over here at this table if you want some more information about that fabulous organization. She is also the former president of AAUW for the state of Michigan. Her background includes careers in social work, business, and being elected as a Michigan state representative for the 23rd district in Southeast Michigan. She's originally from Reed City, and her family moved to Big Rapids and then Mount Pleasant, where she did protesting there for women's rights at CMU and the Vietnam War. And her fight for reproductive rights began with CMU's Women's Health and Information Project, including a pro-choice parade in London, England in 1975. So to give us some perspective on where we've been, where we are, and where we need to go, I present Deb Kennedy.
Thank you. It is on behalf of AAUW. How many of you have heard of AAUW? Raise your hand. Hi, okay. It stands, a few, but not very many. It's interesting because we are the oldest, one of the oldest, I shouldn't say the oldest, women's equity organizations in the country, in the world, really. We started in 1881 with a handful of female college graduates that wanted to support each other and encourage other women to go on for higher education. As you can imagine, in 1881, it was a small percentage that ended up with a degree. And so at that time, it stood for American Association of University Women. But today, we are not American, we are worldwide. We are not an association for whatever legal or tax purposes, we're not one of those. Of university, well, we really have nothing to do with universities today other than still promoting higher education, and today especially STEM and technical education for girls. And finally, women, men, we need you. We can't do this alone, and so we're not just women. And so AAUW is the phrase we usually use, and people think we're part of some union or some alcoholics association. But it's all about women's rights and empowering women since 1881. When I got involved with AAUW, it was because I was running for office. And I had heard of AAUW, but I thought you had to be a teacher to join. And in fact, you don't. And it was a wonderful experience because I had been involved in other women's groups that ended up, it seemed like, with cliques or backstabbing or people upset because you didn't give enough or you didn't show up enough. And I love the tribe of AAUW. And you can truly do as little or as much with it, and you can become a member and support the mission, both locally, statewide, nationally, and internationally. In fact, last year, there's three main areas for AAUW. Research, which, by the way, that group of 18 or whatever in Boston that started us in 1881, their first project was to prove a prominent doctor wrong in his theory that women became sterile if they went to college.
Oh my God.
So AAUW had their first research project, and it's one of the things I truly love about AAUW. So that doctor was proven wrong. It didn't hurt your sterility to have higher education, and it shows misinformation was happening back in 1881, just like today. So that began my world of AAUW because, I'm gonna just set that down. But because it was my feeling after having been in so many other environmental, educational, our kids' schools, the church, the neighborhood, I never found a group like AAUW. It's really been, in fact, I said, where have you been all my life? So I'm glad that you're here and can learn a little about AAUW. And if you're interested in becoming more involved, we have 2 pieces of information that you might be interested in, even if you don't want to have anything to do with us. There's a great fact sheet on AAUW's position on abortion rights, and it gives a lot of facts based on research of what's happening and ways you can support it. But I'd like to give you a little history lesson. I want to get a demographic feeling. Who here is, say, under 30? Under 30, we've got a fair amount. All right, 30 to 40? I'm not really seeing hands. 40 to 50? 50 and up? Okay. So I'm not really here on behalf of AAUW. I'm here on behalf of your grandmother. And grandmothers are pissed. When that Roe verdict came out, for 2 weeks, I was so angry. Every Facebook post, I just checked angry. How can you strip basic human right from the whole population, but especially the half in women? And 50 years ago, 49 years ago, she mentioned my little protest in London, and I thought I'd bring you some pictures. This was wherever we were in London, and you can kind of see the whole group, and I'll have those pictures over here. Here was the bobbies all lined up, no guns, policemen to keep control. Here is a group from Salty Women's Action, 1975, not quite 50 years ago. And here's me and my roommate, Anita, right here, kind of peeking out. And you know, this shouldn't have happened. We have been asleep at the wheel for 50 years, assuming that right could not be taken away, because it shouldn't. It's a constitutional right. And so it's time to re-energize our radicalness, and I'm so happy to see you all here. Let's do a practice. I'm here. Just, I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm here. I'll fight.
I'll fight.
And I'll never stop.
I'll never stop.
You know, frankly, I'm kind of tired. I've had enough of this. But the fight isn't over, and it's important that we all do what we can. The most important thing is to vote. And I want to take the word vote and break it down so that we can get victory, V for victory. The more you can work to get out the vote, as a former politician, that's what it's all about. The election I lost, it was because my voters didn't turn up. They were complacent, and we can't let that happen. When we vote and get others to vote, we will have pro-choice candidates. The WHIP, Women's Health and Information Project, in college that I was a volunteer, was basically a college Planned Parenthood volunteer group. And so we did, oh, there they go.
Yeah.
We did a lot with contraception. And the more we have contraception education, the more we won't need abortion. And then we also did send many young women to New York, from Mount Pleasant to New York for abortions. We just can't go back. Okay, now we practice, right, with the I'm here, I'll fight. We can't go back. We can't go back. We can't go back. We can't go back. We won't go back. We won't go back. Well, that wasn't bad. Kind of spread it all out. So in closing, the V is for vote. O is to offer your help. Some of you can give financially. Some of you can give your time. Some of you can give both. Whether it's a pro-choice specific group or a group like AAUW, whether it's Planned Parenthood, donations do make a difference. They really do help the project move forward, or the campaign. And finally, if you can give your time, whether it's to make calls for candidates, whether it's to volunteer with organizations, but that's our O. Offer your help, offer your money, offer your time. And obviously I'm talking to the choir with this group being here. You already are involved in offering. Then the T is going to be for tell. You've heard it said many times already. Tell your friends, tell a neighbor, tell a family member, and ask them to tell others. Find out who the pro-choice candidates are and do everything you can to help them get elected. And then the E is for enthusiasm. That rally in London we went to, there were supposed to be 4 of us going, 4 roommates were all supposed to go. Well, I think it was a Saturday and there was a little partying probably that happened the night before, and only 2 of us showed up. The other 2 couldn't get on the 7:00 a.m. train to London. People will disappoint you. What other people do has nothing to do with what you do. It's nothing to do with who you are. My hope, so the enthusiasm for me comes from my hope in our younger generation. I know you've heard those old people say, oh, the younger generation, they don't want to work and they don't want to do this and they don't do that and blah, blah, blah. No, I totally disagree. So our younger people here, and those of you who have children that are younger, and the other pissed grandmothers, realize you can make a difference. You can run for office if that's where you feel called. You don't have to have a political background or a political science degree. So that enthusiasm that you maintain, or that excitement about, we can change this, we can make a difference. So I want to close with some words from the great late Congressman John Lewis. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic, because our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. So let me see you get out there and make trouble.